Morning, boy.
चलो लाइव हो गया.
Happy morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Health Darbar. Today, 18th April 2020. We have done, last week we have done, Bhaktiji was here and she has explained about eating disorders, how the eating influences our mind, and in turn, how mind influences the eating and eating disorders, choice of our foods, how we pattern of eating, etc. Last week Bhaktiji discussed, and there were many questions about the same topic. So we have asked Bhaktiji to do the question answer session this Monday. So we are ready with a few questions, but before going to the actual session, I'll request Sonali ji to do the morning prayers.
Good morning everyone. Today is Monday. आज शिव जी का दिन है, तो आइए हम ओम नमः शिवाय का जाप करें. ओम नमः शिवाय. 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 Have a lovely day, everybody. Thank you, Vansaji.
Thank you, Sonali ji. Thank you for a beautiful short prayer. So let us go to the topic of today. So there are a few questions we have framed to understand eating disorders more. So let's delve into the topic. So first question first, when should it be considered one is having a eating disorder? So it's a very thin line between the things. So when can we consider it as a disorder or habit, or how to go about it, Bhaktiji?
For it to be considered a disorder, you have to understand that if you are anemic or bulimic, anemia where your blood levels, your blood sugar levels and your hemoglobin levels will suffer, that will indicate that you need help. But before doing your blood work, if you feel that it's becoming an obsession not to eat, or if you feel that ये हमारी family में है, उनको बहुत कम खाते हैं, it's very unnatural to eat so less. Like I have patients who are anemic who have only one toast in the whole day, which is obviously, I mean, even anybody will say it's too less. So if such a patient needs to kind of go and see somebody, and that is definitely an eating disorder. In terms of bulimia, if you feel the need to vomit every time or every day after eating a meal, it is a disorder. You need to go to a doctor. In terms of binge eating, if you feel that this pattern of binge eating, okay, is recurring very much. So you may not eat a lot every day, but when you eat huge quantities of food. Like शादी में गए, बहुत खाना खा लिया, you're feeling uneasy, acidity. उसके दूसरे दिन आप कोई पार्टी में गए, बहुत खाना खा लिया, घर में कुछ बहुत अच्छा बना है, आपने बहुत खा लिया. So this is a binge eating thing. You can tell for yourself when there is a drastic increase or a drastic decrease in weight. You can tell for yourself when you need help.
Thank you, Bhaktiji. Let us go to the next question. So are certain personality traits are more common in individuals with eating disorders? Eating disorders जो pattern रहते हैं उसमें personality और उसका क्या contribution?
जो type A personality है, who are perfectionist, who feel that they have to be pictured or their image has to be a certain way, who are high strung, very sensitive about people's comments, who are very aware of their social standing. Normally, the type A personality types will have any kind of eating disorder. Okay, it doesn't need to be a disease. It can be any kind of an eating problem, basically a very unhealthy relationship with food. But if there is a particular type that is more prone to eating disorders rather than the others, it's not true. The any kind of a personality can fall, and also you have to understand that this may not be something that goes on throughout your life. It can be a phase. A lot of women postpartum, during the postpartum depression, find that they've put on a lot of weight after their pregnancy, and for that short period of time till they kind of lose their pregnancy weight, they go on very rigorous diets. They do these very unnatural diet. They eat only high protein. They eat only fruits, or they will full day they will eat drink only juice. These very rigorous kind of diets. So that may be one phase in their life where they would do something like that. So it may not be something that goes on for their whole life, but it may be sporadic. It may be depending on their emotional makeup at that time. So no, not a particular personality type is more prone to it.
Okay. Then, yeah, are they treatable? The treatments are there for eating disorders, and is it treatable, curable?
So absolutely, it's very, very easily treatable. You need a mix of medication and therapy. Medication will be more physiological medications, which means that if your blood levels, sugar levels, if your acidity, depending on what the eating disorder has done to your physiology, you will need medication for that. You will need therapy to see that you form a much better relationship with food. Basically, these are very often stress induced. And also when your locus of control is external. Locus of control external का मतलब है कि जब भी आप लोग क्या बोलेंगे, लोग क्या सोचेंगे, उस पे ज्यादा ध्यान देते हो, these kind of eating disorders crop up very often with teenage girls because peer pressure is tremendous in teenage. So ये kind of therapy will help you form a much better relationship with your with food.
So it's about all the young parents. So my kid is a picky eater. Should I worry if it becomes a disorder? It may turn into disorder in future.
Most kids are picky eaters. But because we're talking about childhood, it's important to kind of mention that your relationship with food very often is formed in childhood. So अगर बचपन में आपको सारे fruit groups नहीं दे गए, I'll give you an example. For a family who doesn't eat fruit, उनके घर में fruit आता ही नहीं है. The parents don't like fruit. The child is not going to learn how to eat fruit. Or if मेरे घर में करेला नहीं आता है, so from all the fruit groups, bitter is a very important fruit group also. So अगर आप कुछ भी कड़वा नहीं देते हो अपने डाइट में, कुछ भी bitter नहीं रखते हो, okay, that means the child is not going to experience anything bitter and is going to not like in future anything that has a bitter taste. So it's important that in childhood we get to experience all the tastes and all the nutrients that go along with these tastes. ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि आप करेला खिलाए बच्चे को, मगर if you give pomegranate to the child, अनार खिलाते हैं, तो you have to make sure that he bites and chews the seeds of the pomegranate. They are bitter. Okay, so that is important. Now a household that is very conscious about their diet, okay, you will you will now find a lot of households that say hum to fry karte hi nahi hai, hum to ghar mein meetha late hi nahi hai. Now this is a very important food group for your child, fat and sweet. So if you are not experiencing that and the child has not experienced sugar or hasn't experienced fried food, for him to digest or her to digest anything later is a problem. So your relationship with food is always established in childhood. And if you haven't had a relationship, a good relationship at home, and you haven't had the experience of eating everything when you are a child, you're not going to be able to do it when you're older. Well, you can do it when you're older because you know that as a child, all of us did not eat Karela, but now that we are older, we are all eating Karela. You know, so it's not that you won't eat it, but you know, as a child, you won't have those nutrients. That is very important. Also, when the mother, because the mother is a primary caregiver in most households, and also because the mother is the one who kind of looks at ghar mein kya banega and things like that, normally, not always, but normally. When the mother has an unhealthy relationship with food or any kind of food group, the child will imitate it. So that is something to is very important कि हम किसी भी अगर हमें नहीं भी अच्छा लगता, for example, I don't like mangoes, okay, and if I don't like mangoes, I should still bring mangoes at home and not deprive my children of mangoes. क्योंकि अगर वो लोग ने मैंगो पहले से ही खाया नहीं है, समर में मैंगो इज अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रूट टू हैव. It gives you iron and it gives you vitamin that lasts your whole year. Therefore, when we were children, we were giving mangoes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Mango ki season mein. So that is important to understand that childhood is a very important foundation for a relationship, a healthy relationship with food.
So next question comes as the energy drinks, cola, soft drinks, do these things lead to a disorder or any things to worry that has to make a habit of?
So directly, it doesn't lead to a eating disorder, okay? But it indirectly could lead to a eating disorder because then it becomes a circle. You have energy drinks, you have colas, you have soft drinks, you put on weight. You put on weight and therefore you feel that you need to go on these crash diets and therefore, you know, and then your relationship with food becomes unhealthy. So that is indirectly, no food will give you a eating disorder. It's all how you think about food, how you feel about food, and basically eating is a like involves all your senses. Especially in India where we eat with our hands, it really does involve all our senses. And therefore, if the food itself doesn't give you the disorder, but the emotions around the food will give you a disorder.
So how to motivate one to have a healthy food habits?
So in childhood, according to my experience, if you leave the kids alone, okay, and you ask them to choose between an unhealthy or to a healthy food, every time you will notice when they're not well or when their body demands, they will ask for dal chawal, or they will ask for something simple. They will always go for a less complex food than something that is complex. Now, what is a complex food? Like a burger is a complex food. It has fats, okay, it has too much of starch, it has the white bread, it has cheese, it is high protein, and it's a complex food. Within that burger, okay, there's a lot of complexity. As opposed to apna roti, sabji, dal, chawal, less complexity. The children will always gravitate towards food that is less complex. Now, this need for unhealthy fast food is normally not the body's craving. the body's craving is also always for healthy food. And therefore, if you leave the children to choose from the very beginning what they would like to eat, in my experience, the children will always choose the healthier option. We are the ones who say, nahi masale wala kha lo, nahi aaj dal kha lo, aaj ye kha lo, aaj bahar jayenge. The kids are not, going out on their own. So that is something that we have to understand, that naturally, instinctively, we want to eat healthy food. Now, when a child is gotten used to eating unhealthy, or prefers to eat pizza, or prefers to eat burgers, or prefers to eat things that are not necessarily healthy, we can make it healthy for them. We can, let's take the example of the burger before. We can see that the bread is not maida. We can see that it is whole wheat. We can see that instead of a slice of cheese that is processed, we can put a natural cheese, or we can put cottage cheese, or paneer, whatever. You can make the patty out of full of vegetables. You can put soy keema and make it very interesting for the child, and child will definitely eat the healthier option as long as it tastes good. Like I have mothers who will make pizza, the sauce of the pizza, they'll put all kinds of vegetables. I feel, and there's nothing wrong in it, but I feel that chupa ke, if you're giving kaddu to the child, if you're giving pumpkin without telling the child that he's eating pumpkin, the child doesn't form a good relationship with that vegetable, because he doesn't know that he's eating what he's eating. So I feel it's important to give two options and give both. So you give a small slider and you give some vegetables, and I think the children eat it very well. Now this is for children. When you're older, and if you've already developed like a bad eating habits, health is one big motivator to develop good eating habits. On your own, if you're older, you can make your whatever you are eating much healthier. If you are not able to do that, if you need people to push you to eat healthy, I think you should do something about it. Because as an older person, you have no business to not eat healthy. You don't need anybody's motivation to eat healthy food. So if you need help, if you need somebody to push you to eat healthy, then you need to seek help.
So, yeah, again, the question comes, as are eating disorders genetic?
Yes, so very often the eating disorders can be genetic, but they are also learned. Genetic, because if the parents have an eating disorder, there's a big chance that the child will also have an eating disorder. If it is not genetic, it will be learned, because every time the child sees the mother or the father vomiting after a meal, the child feels that this is the way, because the child is experiencing it, seeing it, the child feels this is the way to keep yourself healthy. This is the way to keep yourself thin. You will see that fads of around eating habits are always learned from the family. अगर आपके mother या father या बड़ी बहन या बड़ा भाई एक particular diet follow करते हैं, so in the family there'll be other people, especially children, who will start doing it. There are children 10 years old who are trying to do keto diets, who are doing intermittent fasting. They have no business doing that. Okay, but this is all learned from family. If it is genetic, can it be helped? Yes, it can be helped. Any eating disorder can be helped completely, but it is also the body's defense mechanism, and therefore every time the body feels stress, the body will go back to the disorder, whether it's anorexia or anemia. So that link between stress and food needs to be cut. You will find that very often, if the mother or father are binge eat when they are stressed, the children will also do that. if there is, if children are overweight in the, if there are people overweight in the family, normally the children also will be overweight. That's because of the kind of food they eat. So is it genetic completely? No, it is a combination of nature and nurture.
There is a joke that obesity doesn't run in the family because they don't actually, because no one runs actually. So the nurtured behavior will be more contributor. Role of physical activity and exercise on dealing eating disorders.
It would help to, if the eating disorder was related to any kind of psychological disorder, definitely physical exercise always helps. But very thin people, see, when there is a eating disorder, you have to understand there are a lot of medical conditions associated with it. There is low body weight, there is blood sugar issue, there is an issue with acidity, there's an issue with digestion, there is an issue with hemoglobin level. So for the kind of exercise they do also has to be a restrictive kind of exercise, because for people who had the disorder for a very long time have brittle bones also, because they're not getting calcium, any kind of calcium. So does it help? Yes, it helps, but it has to be, especially people with extreme cases, they have to make sure that they are under supervision when they are doing physical exercises. It's not always advisable for people who have eating disorders. It's also important to understand that only physical exercise is not going to help. It is like saying, अगर मुझे पेट में दर्द है तो मैं थोड़ा चल लूंगा और ठीक हो जाएगा. Okay, so that is something that you have to understand, that you are going to have to take some kind of medication, and you're going to, medication again, I'm telling you, is only because of your physiological health. And you will need therapy. You will need somebody who can break the link between emotions and food for you.
Next is eating habits or eating disorders. How can we identify or differentiate?
So what are eating habits? Eating habits are, I eat only healthy. I don't eat a lot of fried. I watch my weight. I eat a nutritious, balanced diet. Now, these are your eating habits. I eat only junk. These are your eating habits. Now, when is it a disorder? Is when it hampers your health, and when it is hampering your social standing, your social life, your psychological life, your physical life. When people start telling you, when you can't go around your day without thinking of being thin, okay, without thinking of what I will eat, because the people who are binge eaters or who overeat, they are constantly thinking of their next meal. So whether this meal is over, which is a lot of families, right? Where lunch mein wo log dinner ki baat kar lenge, but that is not because they can't think about eating. That is because they want to make sure that they have the prep ready. But when you are constantly thinking about मैं अगला क्या खाऊंगी, मैं किधर जाऊंगी, that is something that is obsession with food, and obsession with being thin or being underweight is something that you need to be careful about, and that is eating disorder.
So these days, many diets have come up. Many people are following different types of diets. So following certain diets can lead to the disorder.
I think this is a very difficult question to kind of answer, because I don't have an understanding of what the benefits of a keto diet or all these are, whether vegetarianism is good or not. I think all depends on how you feel and your mental makeup and your belief system. So whether only Mediterranean diet or only raw food diet or only vegetables or only vegan, whether no sugar, no carb, it all depends on your health. Number one. Number two, अगर आप seasonal fruits खाते हो, अगर आप Indian balanced diet खाते हो, I don't think you need to do anything else. If you are able to eat 1 spoonful of ghee in your diet every day, ghar ka ghee, I think you don't need to worry about your joints. If you are eating the adequate amount of carbs and protein and fruits and vegetables in your diet, you don't need to worry about it. Whether these lead to a disorder, no. These don't lead to a disorder, but these can be the reason. These can be used for the disorder. Like if I have an eating disorder and if I have anemia and if I feel no, I need to lose weight because my self-image, okay, is so hampered by food that I feel no, मैं अगर keto खा लूँगी, सिर्फ keto diet करूँगी तो I will be fine. I will be thin. या मैं सिर्फ intermittent fasting कर लूँगी तो I will be fine. But all these diets are not for everybody. And honestly, I have no understanding of these kind of diets. If you are able to eat a healthy Indian meal, I think you're good. You're able to eat seasonal fruits, seasonal vegetables, I think you'll be fine.
So can we prevent these things, these eating disorders?
Yeah, that we can do. We can make sure that our children have a healthy relationship with food. We can make sure that they experience all that the fruit groups that they need to experience. We can make sure that they have a correct balance between eating out and eating indoor at home. Once a week, if the child is eating out, that's fine. You can have a rule. I used to have a rule: Monday to Friday, no eating out. One meal had to be a typical Indian meal: roti, sabzi, dal, chawal, whatever other things, compulsory. The other meal could be anything they like, but homemade. And this I tell a lot of my clients to follow. Very often there is a need to just call for food from outside. I can't tell you how unhygienic and how unhealthy some of the foods are, especially the fast foods like McDonald's ki baat kare. I don't want to single out one company, but I know about McDonald's and therefore I'll tell you, the food is kept in their fridges for 6 to 8 months before it is served to you. And any Indian household will not keep food for so long in their fridge and eat it. And there's a reason why you don't do it. But you very happily will go to one of these fast food joints and eat food that is kept in their freezers for months. I think that is something we can help our children understand and prevent eating disorders. और ये जो हम हमेशा obsessively वजन के बारे में बात करते हैं, मेरा वजन कम हो गया, मेरा वजन ज्यादा हो गया, मेरा ये, मेरा वो, इसका वजन ज्यादा हो गया है, वो तो बहुत मोटी हो गई है, कितनी बुरी लगती है, thin people are better, fat people are not good. All this conversation about weight. Okay, if we try and prevent this around our children, I think they will have a better body image and a better self-image rather than feel that they have to kind of stick to one kind of mold. ये size होना ही चाहिए.
So that comes to the end of our questions. So there are a few questions in the chat box too. I'll quickly go there. Mr. Harsh is asking, मेरा बेटा 12 साल का है और I don't know, please help me. The question is not clear, sorry about that. These days schools ask kids for of KG, UKG are asked to bring fruits in separate tiffin box, which is eaten after about an hour. can this lead to any issue or disorder? That was Rajendra's question.
It will not lead to a disorder, and there's nothing wrong with giving children fruits to eat. In fact, I think it's a great fruits and nuts to children is a great snack. It will not cause any disorder, that's for sure.
So I believe Harshji ka question hai ki he was talking about dahi maybe. Dahi nahi kha raha hai, so how can I make him to eat dahi? Is his question, I believe. Yeah.
He is not eating dahi.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is any problem in not eating dahi. You can substitute. Basically, dahi is a probiotic. Substitute with some other probiotic. If he is having milk and not having dahi, maybe usko khatta dahi nahi pasand hai. Try and see that, if milk, basically lactose is a problem, then it's a problem. But if dahi itself, maybe usko khatta ho jata hai aur nahi acha lagta hai, तो try and do जो अगर दही घर में जमाते हैं तो सुबह का सुबह जमाइए, शाम का शाम को जमाइए और वो ठीक हो जाएगा. I mean, maybe he will prefer to eat dahi like that. You can make a dahi with fruit. Actually, dahi देने के बहुत ways है, बहुत तरीके हैं. अगर आप जो रेगुलर दही नहीं खाता है वो आप बांध के उसको फ्रूट डाल के दे दीजिए, it becomes a fruit yogurt. You can do lots of things with dahi. और जो अगर नहीं या खाता, then there are other probiotics that you can give him. It's not a problem. रात को रखी हुई रोटी, I think said this before, but if you make roti in the night and leave it overnight and eat it the next day, it develops the same amount of probiotic bacteria that the dahi will give you. So अगर वो नहीं खाता है तो रोटी दे दीजिए. So there are different ways of doing it. And as long as he's eating everything else, I don't think there is anything to worry about.
Yeah, that's pretty much clear about a few issues bugging our mind. So, can we close Bhakti ji? There aren't any more questions. So Bhakti ji will be here on next Monday too. So whatever. So any further questions can be answered in the next sessions. Thank you, Bhakti ji. Thank you
very
for
much.
pitching in the Lord. And I know your condition, but still you're dedicated to join the session. Thank you. Thank you.
Not about it. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good